that's an interesting question too. I think with one thing about MDMA, that the way we're using it, MDMA, and the same is true of the way people are using psilocybin in those studies and other drugs that you mentioned, is we only give the drug in our studies 3 times in most studies, sometimes twice, and a month apart. So it's a much different situation in that it really, MDMA certainly has side effects and risks, but it's an advantage if you only take a drug 3 times a month apart in terms of those kinds of things. So it's not, I think that mitigates a lot of the problem of the fact that you're affecting a lot of things
So
at the same time, because you don't really need to adjust it over time.
right. So it's very different, in fact, and it's sort of some of these treatments. I want to just highlight this for ketamine also. Well, ketamine tends to have at least some of the research is suggesting 1 month kind of latency period where people come back. That severe treatment-resistant depression, where people have tried multiple combinations of typical or atypical antidepressants, not working, and then they start using ketamine under supervision, and come back a month at a time. But the depression people can report goes into remission that afternoon.
Mm-hmm.
And it hasn't, no drug has been able to touch their depression in some cases you read about 10 years, 20 years. And when you get a result like that, is that what you're seeing with MDMA? Is it this sort of dramatic, compelling kind of cases, or are there some people that are just like, that was really, it doesn't work?
Very interesting question, Keith. It's different from that in general. One thing that we don't understand fully is, the separation between the direct biochemical effect of the drug and the psychological effect of the process that people experience. And obviously both are happening. At some level, the distinction is a false distinction, but our level of understanding requires us to make that distinction, to sort it out as best we can at this point. So I think what we see with MDMA is sometimes things do shift right away, because what you're describing with ketamine is very dramatic and short-lived in most cases.
They have to keep getting doses regularly with ketamine every month.
And one interesting branch of work that's going on with ketamine is ketamine-assisted psychotherapy. The idea that you use the ketamine to catalyze a psychological process and work with that process. I haven't done that myself, but talking to people who do it and reading reports, it sounds as if that may prolong the effect of the ketamine. If you do that for a while, you may not have to keep getting it every month, is what some reports are suggesting. So it's obviously both. And so we've had, for instance, people have just start sleeping well who have had terrible sleep, people with PTSD who have had many other treatments and failed, just start sleeping through the night. That has happened.
It's got to be life-changing for them, though.
It's life-changing. And we've had people just, who've had like uncontrollable rage, just have that stop happening after one session.
Wow.
And most of the symptoms, and that's not the usual case, and most of the symptoms, even in those cases, people still had a lot of symptoms, and it was a process over time.
Right.
So our observations suggest, with MDMA at least, it has more to, well, who knows what it has more to do with, but there's a very strong effect of the psychological process is what we think.
It accelerates the psychological processes, therapeutic psychological processes, self-organization properties of the mind and the psyche.